when life threw Alan Clay a curveball, he needed a fresh start.
And you may find yourself looking for your large automobile. And you may find yourself without a beautiful house, without a beautiful wife. And you may ask yourself, how did I get here?
So he's traveling halfway around the world for the deal of a lifetime.
Sound like you're on the moon.
No, I'm in Saudi Arabia. We're pitching a three-dimensional holographic meeting system to the king.
Excuse me.
You the driver?
Driver, guide, hero.
Where are you from?
Boston.
Do you like Chicago?
Not in the winter.
No, the band.
You know our love was meant to be.
Why are you going to command? There's nothing happening there.
It's full steam ahead.
See for yourself.
Now he needs to learn
The king won't be coming today. Here's where we are right now.
a different way of doing business.
Industrial city, business center, university.
Full steam ahead.
And a different way of making friends.
Did you meet the guy?
No, but I met his associate.
You work for CIA or something?
Just a little freelance work.
People don't like jokes like that.
I knew it as soon as I said it.
Call me first thing after that meeting.
Okay. There was something going on there yesterday.
Yeah, that's where they do the executions. You want to go back and check out what's going on now?
No. No.
Alan, where are you? Why are you not out there?
Mr. Clay,
What happened to me?
an anxiety attack. You'll be okay.
Thank you.
This spring,
Says you're really worried, huh?
I've lost direction, I think.
I think I need to see you again.
There's a lot at stake for a woman like her.
What do you think of this?
You and me, the big culture clash, we are separated by the thinnest filament.
Well, that's the way I think.
That's the way it is.
sometimes you have to change your scenery to change your life.
It's a brand new city. It's uncharted territory. With the deserts and the camels and the tents.
You ready?
I'm ready. Showtime. Expect the unexpected.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, congratulations on this movie, a Dave Eggers adaptation, which is no small feat, adapting a Dave Eggers novel. Tom, I want to start with you. Was it difficult for you to sort of translate his work to screen?
Yeah. It's a challenge, because I mean, it's always this problem. You love a book, and then you go, well, maybe you should just buy the rights to not have anybody make the movie, so the novel is protected. But then, of course, if you have a particular vision of it that is its own thing, which I think is really important. I mean, why just adapt the book and then put images on something that everybody has their own imagery for? But if you have your own idea, your own sense of it, and a very particular one, then it's probably worth trying. And I called Dave and I said, like, I have this idea. I think it could be. I love the book, but I think we can make a movie that is its own thing.
How would you describe your idea when you were coming from reading the book? Like, how would you describe what you wanted to bring to the screen?
There's a sense of the book is quite dramatic and dark, and and there is the sense of we're in a really complicated era and time where making business has changed. It's not really the way this guy that Tom is portraying is used to do it anymore.
Sort of like a local businessman in the global economy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's hitting a wall in the middle of the desert, and he's trying to sell something that isn't really there to someone who doesn't appear in a place where there's nothing. It's a really complicated situation. And I figured if we build on the aspect of the book that's focusing on the idea that you can connect within all the mess and within all the complications of business life and of this society now, something has grown and has gotten better, and that is actually the fact that we know more about each other through the online community, through the fact that we go online, we're in the internet, we know more and we connect more and we communicate more with each other, and suddenly it seems like we're not that separate anymore than we used to be maybe like a century ago or even decades ago from each other, which he figures out, which is, I thought, was the focus of the film.
And now you're coming off of working with Tom on Cloud Atlas with the Wachowskis. Did you sort of bring this project to him there?
We actually sat down the first time, Dave, Tom, and I, when we were promoting Cloud Atlas. I had just read it. I had told Tom, look, this has your name written over every page on it. You have to do this.
It really does. I mean, it's very much a Tom Hanks part.
Yes, and yet it's there's some unusual stuff in there. You know, it's a full-on romance. You know, that we have in there. It's
a buddy comedy.
It's a buddy comedy that we have in there. It's all this stuff that he hasn't done that many times. So I love that there was also exploration material for him.
So if you could talk about developing the romance of this movie, I mean, it's a romance underneath a certain amount of oppression, right? I mean, there are so many things that she can't do, and what I liked about the movie was that those things were not necessarily glossed over, but it wasn't like the main focal point of the movie or of your character, is that she is a somewhat, or she is a sort of a very free woman in a country that's not very free for women. Can you talk about that?
You know, when a lot of the Saudi Arabian women that have met and talked to, one thing I've always noticed, and without generalizing, is they'll be very direct, even if the issue at hand can't be talked about that openly. And so even the script had that, like, I will say things to Tom that are so to the point, even though I'm not allowed to do them to the fullest step. And also, Tom Tykwer, every time I was acting, he would be like, Sarita, you can bring yourself, but you've got to make it stricter, hone it in. And I think that strictness allowed me to have a focus that created a tension between me and Tom. That in my own life, I'm much more nurturing, and then that tension dissipates. So I had a lot of fun with just...
Do you think also not just the tension between you and Tom, but a tension between what your character sort of is and wants, and the person that she sort of has to be?
Well, I think she will worry about something privately, but once she's ready, she'll just say it. So there's a lot of gaps in between her speech that is very un-American. Yeah. Usually in America, we are used to therapy and talking about how we feel. She just says what she feels. So...
And Alex, how did you get involved with the film?
I put myself on tape. I got a notice from an agent I was with at the time, and it was 15 pages, but at the time I was jaded because you put yourself on tape for all these auditions and you never hear anything. So I just did 3 pages. I didn't know Tom Hanks was involved. I didn't even look to see who was directing it or anything. I really like...
One of the many projects that you recorded on tape. Then
yeah.
Like, give me the next one. 3, got it. Give me the next one.
Yeah, this is going to probably be something I never hear back from, you know.
So this is how you get cast in a Tom Hanks movie. You just don't care about it.
You don't give a shit going into it, basically.
I guess so. And I sent it in, and then 2 weeks later they said the director wants to Skype with you, and I thought they were joking. And then I said, who's the director? And I looked and I was like, holy shit, this is the guy that did Perfume and Run Lola Run. And so I Skyped with him, and I remember like I had to set up my room because I was like so self-conscious about like what he would see.
You set up the room?
Like the background, because you were in my room because we were gonna Skype, you know.
Yeah, it looked awful.
And he said you have to do all 15 pages when we Skyped. So I ended up putting more on tape, and then 2 weeks later, or I think maybe a month later, they said you have to go meet Tom Hanks, and that was like I met with Tom Tykwer and Tom Hanks for an hour and a half, and then 3 days later, he said you got the part.
What was that meeting like?
It was nerve-wracking. I think I did a better job putting myself on tape, because when I showed up, I was very inhibited, I think, and but then I don't, you know, that's what was going on in my own head. But it was crazy, you know. I met with Tom Tykwer, and then it was just me. They weren't seeing anybody else. It was just 2 Toms, and we were there for like an hour and a half.
Well, we thought he was the right guy, but you know, then you had to survive the situation of meeting not so much me, but
both Toms.
That guy.
Yeah.
And which is something you just only know when you do it, you know, whether
It's also a question you want to meet somebody to know in an hour and a half if you can then spend 2 months with them
Yes.
working, right? Like, you think he's the guy based off of the Skype, based off of the audition, but then you sit down with him for an hour and a half and you're like, oh, all that time where you're not on camera, I might not want to be around you. I got to make sure, you know?
It's essential and central, and the more films you make, the more. I don't really care if somebody's a genius. If that person's a jerk, I'd rather have the less genius but nicer person around me. Good thing is, in this case, we never had to go for the less talented people because they were so nice. I mean, he's really fun to be with, and he was stuck with Tom, or Tom was stuck with him
Yeah.
in a car for weeks, really, weeks and weeks. I mean, you see in the trailer they're sitting in a car, they're driving around the country for a lot of scenes. And, you know, when you're in the desert, it was actually the desert, the West Sahara. They were sitting there, it was hot outside, so you don't really step out. The air condition wasn't really working, but it was a really old car. It was intense, and because you attach the lights to the sides and everything, you can't just open a door. You're just in there. You sit there and in between takes, reset, go back, take the car around, and wait for the next turn. Takes half an hour. So you need to enjoy each other's presence to a certain extent, which I think you did. I was overhearing your conversations all the time, so I think it was okay.
Yeah, I tried to have, well, you know, at first I was really serious with him and Tom Hanks in the car and stuff, but then after a while, our conversations were very...
funny.
I think so. I was talking to him like about gangster rap and things like that.
What's it like sort of working with Tom Hanks? I mean, one of the things that I really loved about the movie is that it's another performance by Tom Hanks where you sort of really get to see that he's kind of, hyperbole aside, he's kind of Hollywood's greatest everyman. Like, he's just so effortless seeming and charming and just works. And he does seem like he's always giving as an actor as well. He doesn't seem like he's gotten to a point where he's not really communicating or working that hard. It still seems like he's working at it, but he's just so good at being a conduit for the audience all the time. What was it like working with him?
Yeah, I remember Tom Tykwer was saying that before we started shooting, he said, you won't notice it in this scene, what makes him so special. It's like his performance goes to the ether, and there's something magical about people like that. I think they're so present. And he's very he has like a childlike quality, I think, and he's so unself-conscious. And I went into this really wanting to analyze like what makes this guy so magical. And I don't know what.
Find out.
I think other than the fact that he's just so present in his life and on screen and off screen, just he has like a very unself-conscious quality. And I think.
Did you find out what makes Tom Hanks magical? Tom, did you find out what makes? Sorry.
No, you know, it's funny, when you're working with him, it's true what you said. There's nothing that hits you that like, oh.
Right.
But he makes you feel like this is his first film and he's so game. And how you can have that energy after that many films, that's his magic. It's like you're his first kiss. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's the same for a director. He says, okay, what else can we do? What do you want? What do you want? There's this thing like, come on, you've done a moment like this. It's at the door, you look around, you look again back, and then you leave it. I mean, I know you can do 5 versions that are great already. And what else can we do? And I go, well, I don't know, let's be really sad about them. Oh, good idea. Good idea, okay.
Just want to just do the Tom Hanks thing, Tom, come on.
No, it's wonderful because, you know, you get the potential of a moment that there's so much more to any moment than you thought there would be, which also sometimes is, you know, makes you spend a lot of time doing take after take after take because they're all different and all joyful, and you know, this whole experimental element about him that never lets go. And he's also, maybe that's even different today. I don't know, but I think so, that he's at a point where if he's like, I can try anything, you know, it's not like, I'm not going to ruin my career, there's no way to ruin this career anymore. So, you know, maybe he's even a tiny bit wilder about it and does, you know, you can invite him to the weirdest things once there's trust. I mean, I think he needs, like every actor needs the trust, and we needed to establish our trust relationship, and there were complicated things to do with, intimacy moments or like aggressive energies, and you need to explore that before you just jump. But then I think we all jumped.
Where did you shoot the film? Did you shoot it?
We shot a little bit in Saudi Arabia where it's set, but we actually couldn't get the actors to go. I mean, they would have gone, but we couldn't take them because we never got clear, real permission. It was always like the Saudi, or maybe even the Arabic, but particularly the Saudi way of organizing things is like they say yes, but no, and maybe, but no, but yes. Let's see. We don't know. Tomorrow. Come back tomorrow.
Not a lot of confidence in that.
Which is great for film preparation and organization of crews and everything. You can just forget about it. And at the same time, they do their stuff. They get their stuff done. And you can already see there that the difference between the cultures. It does not mean that you can't do business based on a much more open structure of conversation, whereas nothing is definite, but everything is kind of up in the air. But they do their business, they do it, but their idea of business is you meet, you have tea, you discuss a lot of things, you pass by the actual subject you wanted to talk about, and then you say, like, let's talk about it next time, and then you go. And you go back, you have tea, you talk about something else, and at some time you just start doing it, what you were actually asking for. But I didn't really know whether we can really start doing it, so we only shot white shots and the country and Mecca and the city of Jeddah, and we went to Morocco for the rest of it, and to the West Sahara in Morocco, which is an amazing place, even though nobody has filmed there, so you have to bring everything there. There's no hotels, there is hotels, but not really. And you kind of have to build a film city there, which was, of course, a bit demanding. But therefore, you see stuff in the film. I don't think that part of the desert has ever been filmed.
Was that something that attracted you? Obviously, you love the Dave Eggers book, but you're visually such an incredible filmmaker. I imagine that sometimes what interests you in a project is the landscape and what you can shoot, and shooting something that you've never shot before. Was that something that interested you in this story?
Yes, to an extent. I mean, this image, I thought it's a compelling thing. It was, of course, part of the book, this whole idea, and of course, I mean, from the beginning, I thought I can only do this with Tom, because he's, there's his whole representation of this American guy. I mean, for me, was what opened the door in my head to make it a film. But I mean, this guy in his business suit in the desert, nothing is happening, the wind is blowing. That's a very cinematic thing. And the other thing about it, that it's a movie actually about somebody who comes into a situation where nothing is moving anymore, nothing seems to be, there's no development ahead of him, he doesn't know where to go, he doesn't know who to talk to, he's stuck. So it's about still stand in a way, and to make a dynamic movie, which is what I'm always interested in about standing still, that was my, let's say, filmmaker challenge.
Is that a greater challenge than, I mean, when I first saw Run Lola Run, that looked to me like just nonstop challenges for a filmmaker. Like the amount of preparation that went into making sure how you shot it led up to what you wanted to communicate to the audience in terms of time and specificity. That seemed to me like just people yelling at each other on set all day and and freaking out and trying to get done what they could get done. Is that still maybe the greatest filmmaking challenge that you've had, or is there something like this even more challenging, shooting in the desert, dealing with how to shoot in Saudi Arabia versus shooting in the West Saharas in Morocco?
Run Lola Run I was home. I don't know, I knew every street. I could, it was a really easy shoot, Run Lola Run. This is much more, yeah. Okay, she's running, but this is...
Just more shots of her running.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea, running in itself is cinematically appealing. Standing somewhere is much more of a challenge to make exciting to look at, especially after a while. So what I thought was the movie's challenge was to really slip under the skin of the guy and of those guys to be, in the turmoil of their interior lives. And their lives are all in turmoil, in substantial turmoil, but they're standing there like as if everything was still okay, but it isn't, which is exciting, and it's more, maybe I'm just older and more interested in that, and before I was fine with a beautiful girl running.
I think though you've always done stuff like this that are very challenging and so innovative. Like if you look at a film like Perfume, which was a novel about scent, and to adapt that into a visual medium is something, it's an extraordinary task to take on. And then also a film like this, which has so much to do with stillness, and it's a very meditative. You guys saw the trailer. I mean, that was, I might get in trouble for saying this. I don't like that trailer. I don't think it really captures the film. This is a very, beautiful and heartbreaking meditative film. And to have been a part of this experience and to see what they did with the trailer, it's just it's so commercialized, and, he goes to Saudi Arabia, and it's just like, what is going on? What is it, So
it's not as much as a fish out of water story as it's sold as here. As you said, it's much more. It's less about being lost in translation with others and sort of being lost in translation with himself as he's going through this place.
Well, he has to discover the other guy inside, and there's this mask that we all know. And Tom is really amazing. He comes into the movie and goes, to a Saudi Arabian secretary, and so comes in and says, "Hey, what's happening?" And of course, the Saudi Arabian secretary, she might think, okay, you want to know what's happening right now here in this room, what's going on? This whole thing, the whole attitude, he runs into these walls repeatedly until he painfully learns that this method is just dated. And it's actually even dated here, and it's even more, unreliable over there. So it's kind of helping him to let go of these things, and the scare that's there is, of course, that, okay, I've been wearing this mask for 20, 30 years. What's underneath? Is there anything left? And those people that he meets are basically they save him by slowly, when he lets it all go and discovers what's underneath, showing him that it's actually more likable, and that it's more beautiful, and that there's a great sensitive guy underneath.
In regards to masks, there's almost a certain amount of privilege to his mask versus your character's masks, where your character culturally is sort of forced to wear certain masks, where even at the end, without giving anything away, I don't think I'm giving anything away here, but you say, I have to do this because I should look like a man swimming with you, whereas his masks are sort of personally imposed on himself. Do you know what I mean? That's not really a question. More of an observation.
Good observation.
Thanks. I'm going to turn it over to the audience for maybe they'll have some questions.
Good observations, please.
The movie looks really, really good. So my question is for Sarita. Let's say you wake up tomorrow morning and you realize your whole life has been a dream. What would be the most important lesson that you apply to your life after you wake up?
I wake up and I realize everything I've done is a dream.
Yeah.
Including making this movie?
Damn.
It was so nice.
That's a shame. Well, say 3 days ago I woke up. Whole life's a dream. What would I take from the dream and apply it to life?
Yeah, what would be the most important lesson?
Okay, good.
First we have to come up with what the dream was, or
Wow. This is, okay. So, it's interesting. As you get older, you realize certain things that when you're in your 20s, you just never thought were worth doing. Like, for example, I was always, in my 20s, I felt ugly. I didn't want anyone to look at me. I felt like I always had to behave a certain way. Even though I was rebelling, I was always trying to be. And I think now I've got more courage, but I feel like, who gives a shit now? I mean, I'm older. I just wish back then I look at pictures of myself and I think, wasn't I confident you can do everything? I just wish I had known that. It's taken me a long time to feel secure in who I am. Too long.
Hey guys, good afternoon. So my question for the three of you is, what do you think the reception of the film will be outside of major cities? To me, the mainstream media seems to divide people instead of bringing them together currently. So how do you think people will take to the movie? It looks very interesting. I know I'm going to go see it. But just seeing what's on the news these days is a little bit disheartening. So do you think people might step out of their comfort zone to check it out and give it a shot?
Well, we can only hope so, because I think everybody has the instinct about today that something else is going on apart from what we're kind of politically guided towards. I think politically and religiously we're still kind of forced into separate corners. I mean, not only societies, but also, belief systems, and there's this clear division, the desire for division and separation, and I really think we don't feel it. I mean, we, the people, like all of us, we don't feel that that's right. We don't say we're all the same, but we say there's much more to connect with each other, and it's probably more fun. And I think we learned it over the course of the last decades through more travel, because there's just the opportunity of more travel has really, I think, has given many people who didn't do it before, has given them chances to visit other cultures and realize, oh, these people are really nice and actually much more familiar than I thought. And of course, in online existence, our life has totally transformed into much more of a connected species. I think we're much more connected than we used to be five decades ago. And I think the movie is just resonating on this, and it's kind of representing this energy. And I think more or less everyone who's not absolutely ignorant and stupid will know that they're at home in this place. And it's actually it's purposely choosing a character like Ellen Clay that Tom's portraying, who's still a bit stuck and stubborn about more like the old, let's say, analog way of separation, and who's stuck with the whole idea of, you sell things that are solid, and, things have to be clear and separate, and this is that, and this is that. And he learns how to let go in front of us. And we like him in along the whole process, which is, of course, thanks to Tom. You like him when he's still a stubborn, sort of, old-fashioned guy, and then when he transforms himself, it's even more beautiful. So it's a sort of role model, I hope.
Next question.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. So I agree that Tom Hanks is a perfect person to play this role, but if he was unavailable, who else would you have picked to play the main character?
I wouldn't have done the film. I mean it. I really was. I didn't even start writing the script without him saying, "I'm really interested." I wouldn't have gone. I really think so. I think it's 1 in a billion.
It's a Tom Hanks role. It couldn't be. Yeah. Next question.
Hi everyone. Tom, earlier you spoke about how filming someone running is more cinematically appealing than filming someone standing still.
No, I didn't say that. It's just easier. It's easier to make it cinematically appealing. Okay. I honestly, personally think this film is more appealing than Run Lola Run. I think Run Lola Run is nice, but a bit dusty.
So I was wondering, what are some other filming techniques that you think make a scene more cinematically appealing?
You mean in this case or in general?
In general, so for example, close-ups of people's faces.
Well, I think what you're trying to get better at is deducting your methods from not only from the tale, but also from the actual people and the characters, which I've always tried to, but I think sometimes we see movies and they have all this kind of quirky stuff and fast editing, and somehow you go like, okay, shut up. Can I just listen to what the people are talking? I mean, they are not trusting what they have at their core, which is some kind of encounter of people and a situation. And if that's not there, then, or if they don't trust it, then they want to, distract you from realizing that there's something missing maybe. And so I first now go much more profoundly towards, okay, what do I have? I mean, Zara meets Alan. There's a scene in the movie where Sarita and Tom meet for the first time. And it's a really interesting moment because it's not very, there's not much you can do cinematically in terms of invent some interesting lens, movement or something, or camera move. You say, okay, what's happening? There's a doctor, she investigates something he has on his back, and he somehow finds himself trusting that person, and he doesn't know why. And it's really all about, of course, guided by the actors. You discover the scene, and then it's all about the choices when you go closer and closer and closer to someone. So you find them being strangely intimate in the beginning, where that closeness is kind of unexpected, because we're really close in the beginning when she investigates him. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's a Saudi woman, she's a doctor, she's investigating this American, what's this? And for both of them, I think, she's kind of used to it, but for him it's really unexpected. And then they start talking about what's his problem. And then he suddenly finds himself talking about what's his real problem. And he doesn't even know when that happened. And the movie follows him to get closer into him and kind of discovering his trust level rising by getting closer to both of them. And it was just an interesting way to choose, lenses and, and then in the editing also find the right rhythm for that. But I love this scene because it's a bit like what we said, what Alexander was saying about perfume. For me, that scene is really about those pheromones that make us know I can trust a person before I actually know the person. And we all know it's true. You somehow meet somebody, you've got 4 lines, and you go, and it's not, maybe there's some, it's not sexual in the first place. I think it's really connectivity that you can smell on each other, and suddenly you start talking about things, you find yourself talking about something super personal, even you don't know each other. Then there's potential of trust, and that has nothing to do with culture, nothing to do with even not education or anything. Language should be similar, that's all. And suddenly there you go. You find yourself in a trust and in a close and an intimate place. And I was trying to follow these things with the way the film is made.
Also, in that scene, he talked about the first moment. Tom Hanks opens himself up and says this one thing, and Tom Tykwer filmed me from the side. And there's a moment where my eyes just open, and you realize she's totally taking it in on a different level, but she's a doctor, and because of her culture, she doesn't even turn. But somehow it's been placed, so to not always film head on, people think and do things with their backs turned, and we can sense it. Kurosawa used to do that a lot. You could tell a lot from a character just from the back. And I feel like you did that. So that I never knew that when we were filming, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, that tells the story better.
I'm kind of curious, my last question, you're talking about sort of as a filmmaker letting the story guide you to a degree, as a director letting the characters guide you as a director. But when you first started making movies, did you have a philosophy of how you wanted your movies to look and feel that ended up kind of falling away a little bit as you grew as a filmmaker and became a bit more concerned with story and character rather than just sort of the aesthetics of a film?
I don't really know. I don't know whether that has... I think it was always driven a bit from this direction, but maybe it has just evolved more and more towards it. But I think what we all care for is we want to see films that represent subjectivity, a certain... You want not only a position, but you want, when you see a film, I always say, it's kind of like our favorite films are like friends, they're like characters, we relate to them. We have this kind of... It's a bit the same, you meet someone, you feel like, I don't know why, but I feel close to you. And sometimes you see films and after 20 minutes you watch it in this kind of transfixed way because it speaks to you as if it was someone that you really like, and that you, or even if you disagree, that you feel close to and that you're that you're struggling with, you get really involved. So I always say my favorite films are I have a relationship to those as if they were my friends, and sometimes then you meet them again, like friends that you occasionally meet, and suddenly there's a disconnect, and you realize, oh, I've grown out of this relationship. Some movies age, and it's painful. You suddenly realize, or you show it to a friend, and then you suddenly realize, oh, it's old, it's stupid, it's ridiculous. I'm different now, so it means like I've evolved and away from it. And I'd like films to be like this, so that means this is not just me, this group, and of course the filmmaking group, the cinematographer that I work with since I'm a baby, and the production designer and the composers, all these people that I work with, that we grow up together, we grow older together, and I think when you see a movie that we made, there is you can see us or the personality that we create as in a representation of a film. You can age with us together, and you can always decide whether you're still interested in us, but we show us and we expose us to you. And so there's a meeting, there's a confrontation. It's not just visuals that distract you from your daily life.
Absolutely. The movie comes out this Friday. Guys, thank you so much for talking to me. It's been a real honor to talk to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.